On behalf of the Cascade Human Resources team, I'd like to welcome everybody to our presentation on the Cascade Drill Down program. This is where I'm going to take about 10 to 12 minutes. I'm going to explain the program to you. It's a new interview process we're looking for everybody to use when they hire assistant drillers. We're going to really spend some time talking about why we're doing it, how it works. It's very simple and based on tactics which you know. We're going to talk about how we got feedback from the field, and then lastly show you in a simple format how we put it all together and use it. But let's start off talking about why we're doing this. And to explore this issue, we took a look at data, market level data, for 2017 and the first half of 2018, so about 18 months worth of data. And in that time period, the company hired almost 200 assistant drillers, which was by a good margin the largest single employee cohort that the organization was involved with. The issue we face is that during that same time period, we turned over 161 of them, which represents 83% turnover for that particular position. We could say that no particular location seemed to do much better or much worse than that these results were generalized. Every location turned over a fairly significant number of them, or every group did. And we had a lot of cases where positions were churning, where the same slot might have turned over multiple times. Now, to start to look further into this and to examine why there is turnover, there's really three fundamental places where this may be happening. One is in the hiring process. Two would be in the onboarding process. When you bring people in, do we engage them properly? And then lastly, once we get them there, are we doing what we need to do to retain them? Now, if you look at the chart on the right, that shows you the number of assistant drillers turned by tenure with the company. What you're going to see is that 44%, nearly half of the assistant drillers that we turned had a tenure of 6 months or less. There's a tremendous amount of churn that's taking place with people we're bringing in, which would indicate that the current state is likely a function based on that tenure of the hiring process. It is really unfortunate, and currently the way the situation exists, as we do further analysis, that we don't have a lot of consistency in the recruiting, interviewing, or onboarding process as we go through it. Today our goal is going to be to focus on that hiring process. There are other programs that you're seeing right now that will address some of the other two, but we're going to focus today on hiring. Now, in terms of hiring, I'm going to tell you that, once again, the goal is to develop a consistent process for the company. By that way, we can help each other leverage our skills and knowledge to get better. We're going to focus on what is really what I'll call the interview process, the data gathering stage. This isn't the vetting process at the end. This isn't where we're getting to know somebody. This is in the initial stages where we first met somebody and we're trying to make sure that we're gathering the right data to bring the right people in to the screen. We're going to focus on the behavioral interviewing process, which I'll explain in a moment, where we're looking for examples of things people have done. And we've also done a lot of research to identify the mission-critical dimensions for assistant drillers, and there are 6 of them. This came from feedback from the field. And these elements of the program are going to include, first of all, an actual interview guide, or a guide to use in the interview itself, a process to do data integration where everybody can compare notes, and then a how-to document to tell you how it works. Now, let's first of all talk about what behavioral interviews are. The concept behind them is that past performance is the best indicator of potential future results. What you're looking for is questions or things that identify specific examples that candidate has done, of things that they've done that show their proficiency in that dimension. So you're not looking for theory, you're looking for examples. So example might be of a dimension would be something like a time management. Instead of how would you handle conflicting priorities, this would be an example of, tell me about a time at work when you had to do 3 things and you only had time for one of them. So what you're looking for is specific examples and asking questions that help you with that. You want to get from the candidate a positive result, something that's fairly recent, and you want to get an answer that's in the STAR format. And I want to explain that now. STAR format really stands for, first of all, when they give you an answer, you want to have them explain what the situation or task was that they faced. What is it that they were posed with that exemplifies that particular dimension? The action that they took, and then the result of that action. So think of it as a STAR. Now, there's good and bad answers to this. So if you ask, a good answer might be something, if you ask them a question about time management, They might start off an answer with something like, last month I was at work and this happened, or I was faced with this issue. What you don't want is somebody that would say, what I would do, or the way I would approach something like that is this. You want them to talk about a specific example. The action they took, you want to have them tell you the things that they actually did to solve that problem, as opposed to just having them jump right to what the result was. And then result, last but not least, would be how it worked. And obviously you want people to tell you that it worked well, or that they were able to get success from that, and that they accomplished the most specific task, or obviously something that was not successful. Now, in terms of the dimensions, I talked about the 6 dimensions that we're focusing on for this program. Really, everybody wants the perfect candidate. Everybody wants somebody that's got all of the skills and attributes that you need for them to be long-term successful, but that's just not reality. In talking to your fellow managers, they identified 6 things that a candidate has to have to be successful. And the first one is a willingness to travel. If you're not willing to be deployed on a crew for a period of time, then there is no way you're going to be successful in an assistant driller role, and it's not right for you. Secondly, career motivated. That means if you're not pushing and striving for the bonuses and certifications that can increase your income over time, you're not going to be successful in this long term, and you're not going to like the job, or that candidate's not going to like the job. Thirdly, obviously, if they're going to be deployed in teams, relatively small teams in the field, they're going to have to be able to work with others. In addition, a certain level of mechanical aptitude and diagnostic ability, being able to solve problems when you're out in the field, is important. And last but not least, safety, the inclination to focus on safety. Now, how this works is what's going to happen when you do an interview. You're going to print off a form. It's going to be names and dates. You're going to go through and you're going to ask 1 or 2 questions on each of 6 dimensions. So you're then going to make notes on what the candidate says on each of the dimensions, and you're going to record a score. Now, in addition, you also have the flexibility here that if the dimension is willingness to travel, here's some suggestions of questions you could ask that exemplify that. If you have a different question that you feel is better suited for your particular application, then you can fill it in right there. You can use your own question. That's fine, but you want to make sure it's on the same dimension. So you might do one of ours, and you might fill in a question of your own that helps it. So then you're going to fill in for each candidate on a scale of 1 to 5. You're going to fill in the score, with 5 being best. After you've recorded what their answer was, or jotted down some notes to remind you, you're going to fill in what you think they scored on each of the dimensions. At the end of the process, everybody that interviewed the candidate is going to sit down, either on the phone or in person, and you're going to fill in for each candidate. You're going to fill in the names of the people that interviewed the candidate, and you're going to record all your scores. And you're then from there going to talk through with each of the people that interviewed them how you felt on each one of those dimensions to come up with a combined score. Very simple system. But I will also tell you that you have available to you a 3-page document with a full set of instructions that explains out how to use this, as well as will spell out the process that you're going to have to follow to use it, to execute this as well. From here, we'll tell you that the program is taking advantage of your experience by using the same language and process, which will allow you to better share your experience and take advantage of it. It's a step in the process versus the final destination. We want to make sure that we're using this process, and we can go back. If there's things that need to be improved from this, we can go back and revise it down the road. The materials have all been sent to you or available to you, and the impression is that you're going to be using this for all future assistant driller interviews. We're going to come back after everybody's had a chance to use this and revisit the process. If anybody has any questions on this, feel free to reach out to Jessica Alexander in the HR department. I wish you all the best of luck, and I will talk to you soon.